Another day, another deadline, another extension. Prime Minister Boris Johnson and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announcing that indeed talks will continue even through now December, of course, with the transition period shortly finishing at the end of this year, unless there's some sort of extension. Now, before I really get going on this, I just want you to consider one thing. Let's say that a deal is done now. Let's say the text of that agreement is 500-600 pages, possibly even far more than that. The amount of time now that there will be to scrutinise that agreement is going to be very, very limited. And so as we see negotiations continue, as we see yet another deadline pass, is it in fact the reality that a deal will be done and that in actual fact the scrutiny around that deal will be greatly constrained now by the amount of time there is to go before the end of that transition period? Bear that in mind. And of course, guys, as ever, please start off by hitting the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss future reports. Lots going on. I'm doing videos on this channel now nearly every day, so do please check back. Now, the statement from Boris and von der Leyen reads, "We had a useful call this morning. We discussed the major unresolved topics. Our negotiating teams have been working day and night over recent days, and despite the exhaustion after almost a year of negotiations, despite the fact that deadlines have been missed over and over, and of course I've highlighted it many times, Boris had set out a very firm 15th of October deadline. That was a long time ago, wasn't it? They said, we think it is responsible at this point to go the extra mile. We have accordingly mandated our negotiators to continue the talks to see whether an agreement can, even at this late stage, be reached. Now, a few interesting things to note. No new deadline set there. So theoretically now, this could go all the way up to New Year's Eve. Deadlines seem to be coming and going and thrown away very easily. And now we're going right up here to the deadline, supposedly at the end of this month. Interestingly enough, the Times report that the PM and the EU Commission President spoke for less than half an hour this morning, following what's been described as intensive talks between their negotiators overnight. Lord Frost, of course, the UK's chief Brexit negotiator, will remain in Brussels for continued talks with Michel Barnier. Let me know what you're making of all of this, by the way, guys. But I wanted to highlight this from Nick Guttridge, a journalist, who really highlighted the point, and it's something that the Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab pointed out this morning. There seems to be now a clear acceptance on the EU side that they're talking about, at least in briefings, that they fear the Brexit competitive advantage I've been talking about for so long. Nick Guttridge here. What the sides are now trying to thrash out is how unfair competition, this is the UK operating outside of EU rules, of course, would be defined. The process for triggering rebalancing measures and how extensive they'd be. The EU originally wanted the Commission to have the unilateral right to apply them, hence lightning tariffs. That demand angered the UK and has now been diluted by Brussels, which accepts there needs to be due process based on evidence. One EU proposal is for a distortion set test that could be triggered by either side. Before I go on, this is what it's all about. The UK gaining competitive advantage and the EU seeking to minimise that. Nick Guttridge went on to say, the EU stresses this would only apply in cases of significant divergences in standards. It wouldn't be used to scrutinise the minutiae of British law, of every British law. Oh, that's very kind of them. At a certain stage, and this is the key quote here, at a certain stage, the competitive advantage might become so big you have to do something. How do you manage that? Well, how about we have a clean break, we have no level playing field, we have no EU rule book, and when we gain competitive advantage, big competitive advantage, it isn't managed. The UK, the British government are in control and are able to drive home that Brexit competitive advantage. Surely that's what we should be looking for. Let me know what you make of that in the comments. Now, as I replied to this post from Nick Gutteridge saying, fascinating to see all sides now admitting that Brexit can give UK competitive advantage, an EU side desperate for deal to, as it's been described, as manage, but in reality minimise that opportunity. So all sides now are admitting that there's a Brexit competitive advantage and it needs to be managed, it needs to be rebalanced, it needs retaliatory measures put in place. One of those who wants the PM to hold firm, of course, is Nigel Farage tweeting. And this was after Boris Johnson, let's not forget, earlier this week said that no deal Brexit would be able to do exactly what we want. It would be wonderful for the UK. Nigel saying, hold firm, Boris. A great future awaits a truly independent United Kingdom and a big majority of the public will cheer you on. Nigel saying in an piece article for The Express, I would urge the Prime Minister not to give the option of any extension a moment's consideration. And Nigel went on to say it was the extension to our leaving date at the end of March 2019 that paved the way for me to launch the Brexit Party, which led, of course, to the end of Theresa May's premiership. Talking specifically about the deal on offer, Nigel says the problem with the deal is that Brussels wants to strike is that it's not a free trade agreement, but a new partnership agreement based on a new EU treaty. From the start of this process, Michel Barnier aimed was to stop the United Kingdom becoming a genuine competitor, Nigel writes. And I think that bears out by what you're seeing people now admit. Brexit can give the UK competitive advantage, therefore we need a level playing field, we need a way to retaliate, we need a way to cut that off as best we can as part of a deal. Well, we should reject that, of course. Nigel says, I now believe that there is no deal that we can strike with the EU that would be consistent with the pledges made in the election. If Boris holds firm, we reject the EU treaty and wake up on the 1st of January 2021 free of EU law. Nigel saying, and this is quite the statement, I believe that he could become one of the most popular Prime Ministers ever if, of course, Boris holds his nerve and walks away. Now, I did ask supporters of the channel, I had to do this video quite quickly to get it out there, guys, but a couple of supporters responded when I asked, what do you make of this further extension from Boris? Louise saying there is simply nothing left to talk about and it's pointless carrying on. Why is Boris not spending his time readying us for a WTO instead of wasting his time on this nonsense? And Ian saying no side wants to be seen collapsing talks. I suspect they will be sat around the table at 23:59 New Year's Eve when the whistle blows. God, I hope not, Ian. That way nobody can be accused of not using all time available. Well, look, Ian, I get that, but does there not come a point where actually not walking away and letting deadlines come and go and refusing to draw a line under it and move forward with no deal, that actually comes across weaker than continually agreeing to keep negotiating, keep going over the same points when it's clear on the level playing field on fisheries the EU's demands are simply unacceptable. I'm really interested to know, guys, what you're making of this extension. What do you make of what's Boris doing? What do you think he's going to do? Do you think a deal will be done? Or do you think we'll walk away but even closer to that transition deadline? Let me know what you are making of all of this. And of course, if you want to become a supporter and get the supporters badge next to your name, going to be doing more readouts from members. So make sure you hit that join button. Look at the top pinned comment and the link in the top pinned comment to become a supporter, guys. And of course, give this video a big thumbs up as well. That really helps me out. And of course, as ever, thanks so much for watching.